Okay, let's talk about buying jewelry for someone you love. It can be this incredibly thoughtful, romantic thing, or let's be real, it can feel like a super high stakes mission, just filled with pressure and confusion. So today, we're going to break it all down.
I mean, let's be honest, right? For a lot of us, walking into a jewelry store feels a little overwhelming. There are just so many options, so many new words to learn, and all this pressure to get it perfect. But hey, don't worry. We've got a guide for you.
So, to get a handle on all this, we're going to follow the story of a guy named Mark. Picture this. He walks into a jewelry store with a pretty common high pressure problem. His fifth anniversary with his girlfriend Jess is just 1 week away. The pressure is on.
And this is the first thing he says to the sales assistant. It's a feeling a lot of us can probably relate to. When you're at a loss, it just means you have absolutely no idea where to even start. You're confused, you know you need help, and yeah, that clock is ticking. So a really good sales assistant doesn't just try to sell you something, right? They explain things. And to help Mark out, the assistant starts by breaking down some of the most common options for necklaces, starting with two terms that, believe me, get confused all the time. Okay, so first up, we have the pendant. The easiest way to think about it is it's just a single, beautiful item, like a little heart charm or a single gemstone that hangs from a chain. It's a super classic, elegant choice, and its main job is just to look great. And then you've got the locket. Now, this also hangs from a chain, just like a pendant, but here is the huge difference. A locket is a little case that actually opens. This is where you can put a tiny photograph, maybe a little note. It makes the whole thing deeply, deeply personal. So, to put it really simply, a pendant is a solid piece for decoration, while a locket is like a tiny container for a memory. They're both beautiful for sure, but the locket adds that extra personal touch. And honestly, just understanding that one little difference is a huge first step to feeling more confident. All right, so now that Mark kind of has a better idea of the type of jewelry he might want, the conversation naturally shifts over to materials. This is where we start getting into the nitty-gritty of gemstones and all those precious metals. Okay, so the assistant starts breaking down the details. Mark happens to mention that Jess really likes purple stones, which is a great clue. That immediately points them toward amethyst, a really popular gemstone. They also glance at topaz, but, the metal is just as important as the stone. For example, they talk about 18-karat gold. Now, that's not pure gold, it's actually 75% pure, and it's mixed with other metals to make it stronger, for everyday wear. That K just stands for carat, and it's all about purity. Then there's another option, a really premium, silvery-looking one, platinum. This stuff is way denser and stronger than silver, which means it holds onto gemstones really securely over time. See, each choice here, the stone, the metal, it tells a slightly different story about how permanent and valuable the gift is. Okay, so this is where something starts to shift for Mark. As the sales assistant is helping him narrow down all these options, just this simple act of trying to pick a gift, well, it forces him to start thinking way more deeply about his relationship. See, he's not just trying to check a box for an anniversary gift anymore. He's actually thinking about who Jess is as a person. How smart she is, her great laugh. And in that moment, this whole thing goes from just being a shopping trip to something way, way more meaningful. And this is where everything changes. As Mark is thinking about his choice, he suddenly realizes this conversation isn't really about pendants or platinum anymore. It's unlocked a much bigger, much more important question in his mind. And boom, there it is. The whole search for an anniversary gift has accidentally led him to this huge, life-changing decision. It turns out he wasn't just nervous about buying a piece of jewelry, he was nervous about taking the biggest step of his entire life. Which brings us to our final and maybe the most important piece of language in this whole story. Marcus finally found his clarity, he's found his courage, and he says it out loud using a really specific and powerful English phrase. He says it with total confidence. He's not at a loss anymore, not at all. Now he has a crystal clear mission. He's going to pop the question. So what exactly does that phrase mean? Yeah, this is really important. This phrase isn't for just any old question. The idiom to pop the question has one and only one very specific, very special meaning: to ask someone to marry you. It's a casual, super common, and really heartfelt way to talk about one of life's biggest moments. So let's wrap this up.
what did we actually learn from Mark's little journey? Well, we learned that just knowing a few basic terms can turn all that confusion into real confidence. We saw how understanding the different materials helps you make a much better choice. But I think the most important thing is that we saw how the process of choosing a gift can really make you think about the relationship itself. And sometimes that can lead to these amazing, life-changing moments of clarity.
And that really brings us to our final thought here. A piece of jewelry, it's rarely just about the object, is it? It's a symbol of a memory, a feeling, a big commitment, or maybe even the start of a brand new chapter. So maybe the next time you see a piece of jewelry, you'll ask yourself, what story is that one trying to tell?